Everyone, I'm just getting everything set up so that we can get started with our next video. So we're looking at Unit 4, Chapter 2, where we're studying the properties of angles. And we're going to be looking in particular in this video at Section 2.2. I'm going to break it into two parts. So this is 2.2, Part 1 of angles formed by parallel lines. Now, in our last lesson, we actually learned some of the names for these angles so that you could begin to get used to what they were called and how we identify them. But now we're going to take a look at their properties. In other words, how are they related to one another? So in particular, we're looking at the properties of angles that are formed by parallel lines and the transversal. Now, the vocabulary for this particular couple of sections has been alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and consecutive interior angles. We've already learned these names and you've begun to practice them a little bit. And today we're going to look at, well, how do they relate to one another? Are they equal? Are they supplementary? Are they complementary? What are they? So we're going to take a look at that today in this video. So to start off with, we had a worksheet which was 2.2, worksheet number 1. And so we started our class with practicing the angle positions. Let me just show you and remind you of what that worksheet looks like. Let me see if I can figure out where it is. Actually, it's in behind, I believe. Here it is. This is 2.2, worksheet number 1. And what we did to start with in the class was we went through the first couple of pages where we took this diagram and we started to answer questions like 1 and 5. Questions, or angle 1 and angle 5, and you had to choose what they were. Angle 1 and 5 are corresponding. Angle 8 and 4 are corresponding. 2 and 7 alternate exterior angles. 3 and 6 were alternate interior angles. 6 and 4 were consecutive interior angles, and so on. We went through this entire page. You also did the second page, which was a similar one, although you had to write the names of the angles for this one. So angle 1 and 8, alternate exterior angles. Angle 3 and 5, consecutive interior angles. All right? So make sure if you haven't already done so that you have completed these first two pages of worksheet 2.2, worksheet number 1. Let me go back to my PowerPoint now and see if I can, oops, that's the wrong one. Oops, that's for the other class. Here we go. This is the one we're looking for. All right, so I'll go back to my video so we can keep on going. Now, what I want to look at next in this next part of the video is what is actually the relationship of some of these angles. Now, we know some of them already, so this should be a review. What is the relationship of corresponding angles? We learned in previous lessons that corresponding angles are equal to one another. The second one we reviewed and looked at was that the relationship of vertical angles were also equal to one another. So we're going to use these two facts to help us get a few more relationships of angles. And so in order to be able to find that, we're going to use what we already know and start there. Now, in order to do this, I have to be able to manipulate these little round circles a little bit. So I'm going to go back to where I create the PowerPoint and work with it there. Okay, so let's start with what we know. And let's start with the following. Let's say that I move this over and say, okay, angle E over here. What do you know about angle E and angle H? Well, we know that they are vertical angles, so that they are actually the same. So let me bring this down and remember that E and H are exactly the same. Now, I also know something about the angle H and the angle D. These two are corresponding angles, and they know that they are actually equal to one another. So I'll put it over here. Now, if I stop and take a look at what I've just discovered, all the angles that I've circled with the red are equal to one another. So now you should be in the position to tell me what you know about alternate interior angles. D and E are alternate interior angles, so they are actually equal to one another. So we've learned that alternate interior angles are equal. All right, let's keep going and go back to our diagram once again. Now I'm going to be using a similar one. I know that angle E is the same as, didn't mean to do that, hang on. It's the same as angle H, and that's because they are vertical angles. And then I know that H is the same as angle D because they're corresponding. I'm going to keep on going. So now I know that angle D and angle A are exactly the same. And so if I move it over, I now have all of these angles that are the same. So you should be in a position now to tell me what you know about the alternate exterior angles. I can tell that angle A and angle H are alternate exterior angles, and they are clearly the same size. So now I know that alternate exterior angles are equal. All right, now we're going to do one more. And this time we're going to look at something I'll use. Hang on. All right, I'm going to use this one first. Okay, here we go. Angle F. I'm going to look at angle F for a minute. Now, if I have angle F and I look at its relationship to angle H, now you guys know already that because they're beside one another and forming a line like that F and H are said to be a linear pair. In other words, they form a straight line, they're supplementary, they add up to 180. Now, I also notice that angle H is the same as angle D. So let me bring the green one over so I have it in the right spot. Good. And so if I take a look at that and now ask you, okay, well, what's the relationship of angle D and angle F? I know that angle D and angle F are consecutive interior angles. And if they're consecutive interior angles, I now know that because of the way I've colored things here, that these two angles are going to have to be supplementary. And so we now know that co-interior or consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So what we've just done then is we've actually, sorry, I'm just trying to get this out of here so I can go back to the video version of this one. Oh, my mouse is being crazy. Here we go. So now we know that co-interior or consecutive interior, we call them as well, are supplementary. So now we know three new relationships. Alternate interior and alternate exterior are equal, and co-interior or consecutive interior are supplementary. So now I want you to go back to the worksheet that you had, 2.2 worksheet number 1, and I want you to finish it. I want you to do the entire worksheet, walking through it, trying to make sure that you understand the various types of questions that you can get. And in class, we just worked on the even questions. So there you have it. These are properties of angles formed by parallel lines in a transversal. And your homework for this one was to finish all the even questions. There were a couple of questions as well from your text. Question 1, question 4, and question 15. Good luck, everybody, with your work, and make sure you bring any questions that you have to class.